Hey, you have reached Michael Gray at the 365 Success System Online School, and this is the free class, day one or one day, and it's an encouragement, a message of encouragement to parents, educators, and politicians. What do you want for your child? What do you want for your student? I know the answer to that, the best. We want it, but we are not taking care of our children properly. And I believe in the public education system, right? I believe in its possibilities. And we need to get from possibilities to action, to move away from product-centered education, meaning how many kids are going to college, what colleges are they going to, how much scholarship money have we earned, so on and so forth, test scores. And I'm not saying those are bad or whatever, but that's our focus, all right? We need to become mental wellness centered schools, mental wellness centered districts, right? Or relationship centered schools and districts. That's what we need to do right now. We can't wait. It's life and death. What is the worth of our children's lives? Here we are. These are mental health statistics from various organizations. 1 out of 5 young people have a mental health condition. 1 out of 8 young people have an anxiety condition. 1 out of 10. And these are conservative because people don't report this stuff. This is what's reported. 1 out of 10 have a mood condition, which is depression. Half of all lifetime mental health conditions begin by age 14. I saw another set of research that had 13. So I'm going to show you why kids are disengaged. What's one of the biggest complaints from educators? My students aren't engaged. My students aren't engaged. All right, here's what Kurt Fisher of Harvard University says. One of the most beneficial things that brain research has done is it's made it very hard for us to split cognition from emotion. The areas of the brain most involved in memory, learning, cognition, and that's the quintessential cognitive function, which is memory, is tied to the emotion areas, right?
So I would always say, if you want to learn something new, check in with your motivation, because here's the thing. All learning is state dependent. All learning is state dependent. This is the thing. Information combined with emotion becomes a long-term memory. We know that. Is there like a song or fragrance or food that could take you back to when you were a kid?
Absolutely.
Because information tied with that emotion becomes a long-term memory. Back in school, what was the primary emotion we felt? Boredom, right? Half the room is bored, the other half is confused. But on a scale of 0 to 10, what's boredom? 0. Information times emotion. If the emotion is 0, what's anything times 0?
0.
And you wonder why you forgot the presidents, the capital. Right? That's why entertainment is so powerful, because education, maybe empowerment is here. Entertainment is way up here because of that emotion. But when you can infuse emotion into the learning process, and part of that is human motivation. Because I remember the second question, I was talking to Bill Gates about he's like, reading is what I'd like to be better at. I'm like, I totally can help you with that, because leaders are readers,
yes.
Clearly. And on top of that, I was like, we're talking about the future education, and I was talking about accelerated learning, and he was talking about tools and technology, and a bunch of crowd was building, and they said, what's missing? You have the tools, you have the theory, and we came to the same exact conclusion: motivation.
We need to prick their hearts, students, parents, staff. Everyone needs to be emotionally engaged. Everyone needs to work on their mental wellness skills, on their life skills. All of us do. I do. We need to work on them every day, and yet we refuse to. We're there 8 hours a day as educators. The students are there for 7, and it's built in. The infrastructure is there. They're a captive audience, and yet we won't do stuff that's going to help them, like, for real, for the rest of their lives.
So vulnerability is the birthplace of everything we want more of in our lives. The problem is that we end up here. Instead of having an open heart, we end up with a closed heart. We end up with a protected heart for a lot of different reasons. Some of them are environmental. Let me tell you this for sure. the greatest casualty of trauma is vulnerability. The worst thing we lose in trauma is vulnerability. And let's be very clear about what constitutes trauma. Racism is trauma. Poverty is trauma. Classism, trauma. Homophobia, heterosexism, trauma. And so the biggest casualty of that is I can't be vulnerable. Well, when vulnerability, the ability to really be who we are, becomes a realm of only the privileged, we have lost our capacity to create a school, a home, and a country that we love.
That is Dr. Brené Brown, and she's my hero. I just want to be like her when I grow up. Here is a demographic of our poverty rates in the state of California, and specifically Los Angeles County, which is where I work, but in any state you can find the same information. 46% of LA County children live at, near, or below the poverty line. All right, the dark areas are up to 68%. It's an amazing phenomenon that we just pretend that kids aren't coming to school not ready to learn. And it's not ready to learn out of spite or that they don't care. They just don't know how to care because they're in a state of survival. When you're in a state of survival, you're nowhere near any kind of vulnerable or creative type of feeling. This is what I'm asking us to do. Let's be urgent, day one. We cannot wait. It really is life and death for our kids, right? And we need to train our staff. We need to train our coaches. We need to train our parents. We're going to get to that. Just have easy to use materials that students have on their media devices. It's super simple. There's PDF stuff that exists. There's all sorts of stuff, right, that they have 24/7 that they can use that's going to help them with their mental wellness situation, right? But it has to be at the school also, in each class every day, at all levels, pre-K through grade 12. Now, here, I don't know if this is controversial or not. I care, but I don't really care. And this needs to be a must. There's a saying that I've heard and that I used, and it says, stop shooting all over yourself. SHOULDING, shooting. So I think you should say it out loud with me. Stop shooting all over yourself. And we need to turn our shoulds into a must. All these things have been shoulds forever, and now they have to be musts. And this right here is something that is super, super important. School-wide and district-wide goals of 100% of student athletes and sports-interested students in middle and high school be academically and character eligible and ready for four-year universities. Why? Here's the rationale. Right or wrong, student athletes are perceived as, and in many cases actually are, leaders. When we create the culture of academic and character leaders on campuses, the energy of the campuses change. Right now, they're not. They're held to the 2.0 stuff. And then hopefully some of them want a scholarship and then they'll go for the 3.0 or higher. No, because all these things are related. All the stuff that I've been leading up to this point, they need to be for student athletes, obviously, too. But we need to push to them. Why? Once again, they're leaders. And when school kids see that even the athletes, or especially the athletes, are being held to that high standard that we're trying to hold everybody else to, then they'll want to also do easy PTSD assessments for each student. Do a school-wide Who's Your Person. What's a Who's Your Person? That's where you find out who the adult on campus is that each student, they have someone that they identify with, that they connect with, that they feel comfortable talking to when they need someone to speak to.
We're going to go through these four because they're radically different concepts. We use these words interchangeably, and they are completely different. And one of the four elements of shame resilience that the most resilient men and women have in common is they know the difference between these words and they use the right word to express the right emotion. People ask me all the time, like, what's your goal in your life? I was like, to make the world a braver place. If you had one opportunity, what would be the most effective impact you could ever do? I said, if I could get in front of every teacher in the world and we could have real conversations about shame, about vulnerability, about courage, because I think the revolution will not be televised, it will be in your classrooms.
That's it. That's my pitch. That's my encouragement, that we change today. Not tomorrow, but we change today. And I'm not going to give up. You're right. We are right there. We have 51 million students at our fingertips that we can have an impact on. And then you add on to at least 51 million more parents. Now we're at a third of our country's population. We can do this. We have to do it.